Yo guys, welcome to my Succession Kuno PvP guide. In this video I'm gonna mainly go over what changed with the reworks and some new tips and tricks that I use. It might not include some of the very basic stuff, so keep that in mind and let's get into the video. Okay, so starting off with our skill build, we wanna have at least like 16 to 1700 skill points. Hello Slash, this is gonna be our pre-buff, attack speed, you don't need to max it out. Ghost Reading, put 3 points into it just to reduce the cooldown. This is used for movement. Crescent Slash, get the prime version as soon as possible, this is our movement or a float. Floor Sweeping, just put 1 point into it, this is another one of our pre-buffs. Ankle Cutter, get the prime version, this is one of our movements as well. Fatal Blow, Hard Timing and Fatal Blow combo, you wanna have all of those, this is good filler damage in combo. Don't take the Kunai stab, it's bad and it messes up your combos. Fox Claw, you wanna max it out, also good filler damage and has crazy air attack modifier. Shadow Stomp, you wanna obviously have it, it's a good damage, float and a dash. Hello Clone is gonna be mainly for our protected movement. It also does some decent damage now, but if you don't have the skill points, just leave it at prime level 1. Slash is kinda overloaded right now. It has a protected AoE stiff with damage and also can be teleported twice right now. Shackles, you might wanna leave it at level 4 or like not take it completely. Level 4 lets you take the Rabam. And Prime Shackles is only really useful if you need to DPS someone that's already CC'd or just slow them. Moonlight also has situational skills similar to Shackles. It's also like a DPS that you wanna drop down whenever someone's CC'd, but it doesn't do that much damage. Shallow Explosion, great skill, wanna have it as soon as possible, and it's protected damage. Tendon Cutter, one of our main catches and a movement. It's fully protected with a float at the end. Our E-buff, you wanna take it. Dance is a movement with some damage and protection. Wheel, unprotected float, but that's crazy good damage, so you wanna have it. Throwing Hick, just take level 2, as it's gonna allow you to combo more fluid into Foxclaw for the air attack. Kickdown, you don't need that. Target Chase, we wanna have level 3 for the reduced cooldown and 100% uptime, this is our pre-buff. Ghost Step, max it out for additional distance. Ninja Evasion, since they removed the protection, you don't want to take it at all, just lock it. Probably don't even need to skill it at all. Brace, it's our out of combat heal and WP recovery. You might want to just leave it at level 3 if you don't need absolutely a Death Descent. Our grab, you don't need to max it out, you only add damage. Smoke Screen, this is our SA stun, really strong skill, max it out. Ninjutsu Concealment, this is gonna be our stealth or dash as well. Kunai Throw, it's not necessary, but this one allows you to use the Ghost Rune to stiffen with a Kunai Throw, and also it's more fluid with movement. Kunai Throw paralyzes, this is our passive. Whenever you hit someone with the Kunai, you're gonna debuff them for 15% attack speed and casting speed, and again you can leave them out if you don't have skill points. The passives, obviously you wanna have all of them. This one, if you don't have skill points, you don't need to take it right now. For our Rabams, this is mostly your preference, as actually 5 of them are viable. So I would take only Shadow for sieges and node wars, and maybe like large scale GVGs. Sinew Cat for duels and small scale. And between Assassin's Trail and Heart Snatch, they both do similar damage. Trail leaves a trap on the ground, which only explodes when someone walks into it. And they both have somewhat backward movement with protection. Assassin's Trail has short frontal guard with iframe, and then Heartsnatch has very short iframe, but it has a debuff on it. And for the last Rabam, we only take Shackle Target, as this one is garbage, and Shackle Target is going to be your SI movement and a debuff. And for the skills that you have to log, it's going to be Ninja Evasion and Tragic Blade. You might also consider locking Shadow Clone and putting it on Hotbar, because it might mess up your inputs. And same goes for Brace. Also would recommend putting it on Hotbar. And now for the rest of the skills that you wanna put on Hotbar, it's going to be Shackles, Moonlight, our E-buff, and all of your Rabams. And then you might probably also put concealment just to not waste smoke screen every time you wanna try to go into stealth. As for my add-ons, this is what I currently have, although I'm still testing and playing around with different setups. Now let's go through the changes that happened with the reboot. The first one being Ghost Step is now full iframe. Block jumps A and D were reworked, now giving us the ability to teleport to a log in front of us. This should be putting us in 2 seconds stealth, although it doesn't seem to work most of the time. But this way we can at least re-enter stealth if we previously had the stealth buff running. I usually just use it to reposition myself in a fight. Another trick with block jump is that if we go to our settings and keybind WW evasion, we can then use it from block jump to go over a target and gain some extra distance. I usually use it to disengage from a fight. And one more thing about block jump is that if you jump, you can kinda flick your camera and appear in a different position. Floor sweeping has a tiny delay, so we can't spam down smashes anymore, and it and front kick can now be put in Hotbar. Shadow Clone has a new animation with backward movement, does a bit more damage, and we can also just cancel it instantly for the damage part. Spacebar after Shadow Storm is now going to proc smoke screen instead. Hard timing cooldown was reduced, can be now used on cooldown, and a long Fatal Blow combo, Kunai Stab and Shadow Clone can now all cancel into Shadow Storm. Smoke screen can be directly used from Ghost Step. The iframe while going into concealment was improved, and we can't accidentally proc hard timing by holding spacebar. Our grab has super armor on success but shorter animation. Jumping kunai throw has now a splash damage, but it's still not very useful. Slash animation was sped up. The wind up is now protected. It lost its linger, but it also does damage on both hits and can be moved twice. Great skill to engage from elevation with, and alternatively you could use ground thrust, but this one is unprotected. Tendon cutter has a new input, which is W and Q, and if you hold down W you're gonna travel in a sort of straight line. It also flows really well from other skills. Crescent Slash has a protection on the movement part. Ankle cutter got frontal guard. Animation speed of shackles was slightly increased. Shadow Explosion got super armor. Dance Macabre does considerably more damage and now properly works in air. There are a few more small changes that I left out, but they're not that important. For our pre-buffs, I kinda already talked about it, but it's going to be Target Chase, Shadow Slash and Floor Sweeping. This gives us 5% attack speed, 10% down attack damage, and movement speed plus not consuming stamina while running. And in case you're playing evasion, you might consider also using smokescreen for the evasion buff. Okay, as for our protections, we mostly have super armors and iframes, but we also do have one frontal guard, not counting the block of course, which is going to be ankle cutter, really short frontal guard. Then we have our main iframe, which is Ghost Step, 1 second cooldown. Our second iframe is going to be block jump, can kind of linger a bit in it and then get out. Shadow Clone, which is going to be super armor. Shadow Explosion. We have Flash Slash, which is going to be SA with an iframes on the teleports. Then we have Dance, which is going to be super armor with part iframe at the beginning. We have our Crescent Slash, which is only super armor at the moving part. We've got our Tendon Cutter, which is full super armor along with the float. Ghost Greeting also has a short iframe here. Then we have also our bounce, so mainly shackle target is a super armor. And then in case also you're running Assassin's Trail, it's frontal guard with iframe, pretty short though. And all of the other bumps are also very short iframes. When it comes down to movement, I would suggest you go watch my previous guide. It's still very much relevant, and there isn't really one single best way to move as Kuno, so you shouldn't really be stressed about it and just try to practice which skills flow well with each other, and then you'll get the hang of it. Okay, as for our PvP catches, we have 3 very safe ways of getting CC. So for starters, we have Tendon Cutter, which is going to teleport us on top of our enemy with a float. And what we want to do is flick our camera right before pressing LMB, so that instead we go behind the enemy and float them from the back. Next up we have Flash Slash, which is our second protected CC. It's an AoE stiff, which is very strong. So we basically do something like this, and we can follow up with a hard CC on it, and then go from there. And the third one is going to be Smokescreen, which we can basically get a quick gap closer. I like to use Ankle Cutter Ghost Step, and then we will do Smokescreen behind them so that it goes behind their frontal and stuns them from behind. Another way of CCing people is gonna be same gap closer, so Ankle Cutter Ghost Step, and then we're gonna do Stomp instead, so we're gonna go for Float. We can also use this to grab people. Then we can also, instead of using Ankle, Cutter and Ghost, we can just use Dance with the increased range, and then we just like block jump, Ghost Step behind them and smoke. Or we just use Dance the same way and grab them. Then we have Block Jump, which is really good to go for like stationary targets that are like stuck in animation. So we would go behind them with W, and it's gonna stiffen them. In case it doesn't, you can still just grab them for free. Or if you're scared that you might get CC'd, you can also press W and then instantly press space. It's gonna go into Smokescreen, it's gonna keep you protected and stun them. And one more good catch is also Kunoichi with the Ghost Rune, so here. And then if I throw my Kunai, it's gonna stiffen them, so we can weave it in and then follow up on it. I guess we do also have Moonlight and Shackles, but those are unprotected and quite slow, so I wouldn't suggest trying to fish for CC with them. Okay, so since Kuno has a ton of working combos, I don't really want to show you a specific combo yet. Instead, I'm gonna try to show you secondary CCs that you can use to extend your combos, and then maybe you can figure out some combos yourself. So once you get your initial CC, with a hard CC, let's say, so first of all, let's go with hard CC, you're gonna try to maybe stiffen them in the middle, so they're about to get up, and for that you can use Fatal Blow, you could use Foxclaw, or sometimes also Moonlight, and you could also just use Sinew Cut and place it down. It might also stiffen them when they're about to get up. So then we have our hard CCs, it's gonna be just floats, because Kuno doesn't have a single knockdown. And we're gonna try to use a quick float, is going to be Kick. Then it's gonna be Crescent Slash. And then we also could use just Shadow Stomp. Or just Wheel of Wrath. And release the runes with it. And also with a Kick and with a Crescent Slash, you probably want to add Foxclaw, because it's gonna do nice air attack. Very strong. Okay, so for explanation for the rune system that Kuno has, so basically each of the 7 skills here has a corresponding rune, and whenever we use it, we're gonna gain this rune. And then so basically Shadow Storm, Block Jump and Smokescreen is going to give you the Ghost Rune, Explosion and Tenon Cutter is going to give you the Soul Rune, and Foxclaw and Shadow Clone is going to give you Spirit Rune. And so basically you can see here, when I use Explosion, I'm getting the rune here, it's gonna get highlighted. Okay, so whenever we have all 3 runes activated, our next dance or wheel is going to have increased damage. It's going to apply a bleed and heal you a little bit as well. And same goes for dance, it just does a bit less damage. And then there are also 2 and 1 rune releases, but they're not that important. I guess you could do get the Soul Rune and the Spirit Rune, and then your next Shadow Storm is gonna do extra damage, although I'm not sure if it's fixed yet, because it was bugged upon the release. And the second one being having the Ghost Rune alone, as I already showed you, your Kunai throw is going to stiff, so that's also pretty useful. Okay, so here are a couple of combo examples. If you don't know how the CC system works, I'm gonna link a guide in the description. Make sure you slow down the video if you need to. And sorry, I forgot to show my inputs here, so instead of I wrote them down below. And yeah, on Kuno there's really numerous different ways you can combo people, so you should definitely test it for yourself. As in actual combat, you're often not going to have all the specific cooldowns up, and you will have to adapt on the spot. As for these few examples here, I wouldn't even suggest learning the last combo, because chance you'll need so much damage and you'll have all the cooldowns up at the time is really small. One more fun combo I want to show you is going to be an almost fully protected one. So we start with Flash Slash into Wheel of Wrath, which is unprotected, but we're gonna instantly cancel it out with Ghost Step backward. Then we go for Explosion, Smokescreen, Shadow Stomp, which is going to be second float. This one is unprotected, unfortunately. And then we can do Shadow Clone into Rune Release for that, so Dance for safety, and Wheel if you wanna go risky and do more damage. And lastly, Tendon Cutter and Shackle Target if they're still on the ground or around you. Okay, so let's talk about a few more random tips. These are not gonna be in any specific order. First off, mouse movement on Kuno, it's very niche, mostly for style points. You don't really need to know how to mouse move on Kuno. You could for like specific scenarios, but it's not very important. The only skill I would recommend learning how to mouse move is Shadow Stomp. As you can see, the animation goes forward and applies damage in CC, but we instead move backwards to avoid any potential CCs. And then also probably Shackle Target so that you move forward instead and not backwards, so you don't have to turn your camera. As for Shadow Stomp with Slowcast, I wouldn't still suggest using it. It has some very situational uses, but it just isn't consistent, and especially if you're trying to mouse move it. A cool aerial combo that could be used for sieges and new RBF. And if you ever accidentally jump off shame in a fight, there's actually 4 different things you can do. So if there's someone close to you, you could just double jump and grab him. Then the other thing, it would be pressing RMB. That this is gonna go into Kunoichi, and from there you can cancel into 3 different abilities. So we can do Smokescreen and go from there. We can do Dance, and we can also do Tendon Cutter. So yeah, this should save you from looking like a dumbass. So that will be it for this video. I hope it was at least somewhat helpful and you've learned something. If you have any more questions, you can leave them down below in the comments, message me on Discord, or catch me when I'm live on Twitch. So with that said, I would appreciate if you could subscribe and leave a like, and till the next time, peace.